welcome to a new episode by Flyboys Aviation. Today's episode is about Panair do Brasil. Up until the 60s they were the largest carrier in Latin America. That is until government interventions sealed their fate. The scars of this are still present today, more than 50 years later. Find out about the crazy history of Panair in this video. The airline began as a subsidiary of the forerunner of Pan American. This was in response to aerial services provided in Brazil by the Germans with Sindicato Condor, the forerunner of both Cruzeiro do Sul and Varig. The airline was sold to Pan American in 1930, who subsequently renamed them Panair do Brasil. In the 30s and early 40s they expanded both within Brazil as well as on a regional level. The share of Pan American became increasingly small in the following years. After World War II, pilots and technicians that were no longer needed for the war effort were put to use in commercial aviation. In those days the airline started intercontinental flights and were well known for their high standard of service. Indeed, they represented the glamour of flying. They had offices abroad, contracts to appear in movies, and were pioneers in advertising. Although they increasingly felt the burden of increased competition, they were a financially sound airline that seemed to have a bright future ahead. But then, on the 10th of February 1965, the Brazilian military government shut them down. A Panair flight to Europe that was about to depart that night was cancelled. A Varig 707 was already waiting to take over this flight. Panair airplanes were transferred to both Varig and Cruzeiro do Sul. Clearly, both airlines were in on the government scheme. Thousands of people were unemployed in the blink of an eye. Aeronautical telecommunications, for which Panair was responsible within the country, were affected. The same was the case for many airports in the north and northeast of the country, which the airline itself was running. Although there was a court case, the Minister of Aeronautics, Eduardo Gomes, pressured the judge not to let Panair fly again. The judge mentioned that the airline couldn't continue because they had no source of revenue anymore, conveniently forgetting that the airline also had income from maintenance and telecommunications and that their assets were much larger than their liabilities. It turned out that the owners of the airline, Celso da Rocha and Mario Wallace Simonson, had fallen out of favor with the new Brazilian government and were relentlessly prosecuted because of it. Simonson was also owner of TV Excelsior, which was shut down too. The forced bankruptcy of the airline resulted in a very lengthy legal battle. The flight permits were not officially revoked until 2009. In 2013, the Brazilian National Truth Commission held a public event in Rio de Janeiro about the demise of the airline. Since 1966, every October 22nd has seen a reunion of former Panair employees. It just shows that even after all these years, the airline is still in the hearts and minds of many. Thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. On my channel you will find interesting videos that provide some background to the fascinating world of aviation. See you around!